breaking news and weather authority. This is 13 Wham News at 11.
Good evening. The days of passing notes in class are gone. Now teens and students are turning to their cell phones and the internet to communicate more than ever before.
New research finds sexting, yes, sexting, not texting, is becoming more common. Teens exchanging sexual images on their cell phones are now being prosecuted. 13 Wham's Sean Carroll takes an investigative look at sexting, a trend that teens and their parents ought to know about.
Sexting. Sexy photos being sent from phone to phone. It's a trend that's making headlines across the country. Just last week, in a suburb of Scranton, Pennsylvania, police confiscate the cell phones of 5 students between the ages of 11 and 17, sexting that may end up being criminal. Locally, 16-year-old John Sciabica of Webster is facing 2 felony charges for similar circumstances. Wayne County Sheriff's investigators say Sciabica enticed a 15-year-old girl into texting him sexually explicit photos and a movie of herself. They say he forwarded them to friends. Then they charged him as an adult with crimes that carry maximum penalties of 4 to 7 years in state prison.
It's something very serious, and these young people, when they go get arraigned, hearing Class E and D level felonies is pretty shocking for most.
Tom Splain is Sciabica's lawyer. He's also represented other teens facing similar charges. And as a former assistant district attorney, he sees flaws in the laws being used to prosecute so-called sexting crimes.
I don't think that is what was contemplated when the laws were written. Candidly, that I think it was more for the older pedophile collecting pictures of young children. We're now running into high school students getting swept up in these charges.
Dr. Sam McQuade of R.I.T. is our nation's leading researcher on such issues.
And it's happening at a rate that's faster than laws can be created and educational programs and parental awareness programs can be created to offer intervention.
McQuade's research shows 28% of 10th through 12th graders send or receive sexual content online and regularly use cell phones. More than 1 in 4 7th to 9th graders fit that bill, and 12%, more than 1 in 10, 4th, 5th, and 6th graders do the same.
We're talking about kids that are, on balance, 10 years of age.
McQuade says simply teens plus technology equals potential problems.
They're going to find ways to get themselves into trouble. That's what kids do.
And much like Splain, McQuade doesn't see the justice system as a solution to this social dilemma.
If you can't prosecute your way out, you have to educate and supervise your way out.
I don't have the answer today, but I think it's something our legislators certainly do need to look to make this law and its application much more fair.
What happens online is happening in our real lives and vice versa. And that's the world in which we live. And it's never going to change, so we might as well come to grips with it now.
Now, if criminal charges aren't enough to wake up parents and children to this issue, Dr. McQuade says think of some other consequences to sexting or misuse of technology. As they grow up, kids are finding online images of themselves are preventing them from being accepted at colleges or even being hired for jobs they're otherwise qualified for. He says it's an issue that needs to move from those cell phones and the internet to the dinner tables for family discussion. As a result, I've placed my entire interview with Dr. McQuade, as well as educational resources, studies, links, all on our website, 13wham.com, so families can have this discussion.
Yeah, it's tough for parents to keep up with the technology, tough for the law to keep up with it too, as we're seeing.
Yeah, and in many of these cases, because many wonder, how do they pan out with a 16-year-old being charged with such felonies? In most cases, it comes down to the discretion of the prosecutors and the law enforcement officials. Often the juvenile offender status can be used to prosecute. That seals a lot of these records. It resolves it with fines, community service, and probation. Often, the penalties are real, though, and the damage of these charges being made public quickly hit home, and they last for a while.
State laws or federal laws, too, because it's a phone? What needs to be changed?
Well, possibly on both levels. Let's face it, some of those exchanges do constitute federal violations. That means much stiffer penalties in some cases.
Thanks, Sean.